The Senkaku Islands, a cluster of 8 uninhabited islets, are at the heart of a geopolitical tug-of-war. China, Taiwan, and Japan all lay claim to these islands, driven by rich fishing grounds and potential oil reserves. Control over the Senkaku Islands means control over vital shipping lanes and undersea resources. For China, asserting sovereignty aligns with its broader maritime ambitions. Japan sees the islands as an integral part of its territory, bolstered by over a century of administrative control. Taiwan's claim often gets overshadowed by the more assertive stances of Beijing and Tokyo. The United States has declared the islands fall under the U.S. Japan Security Treaty, complicating the situation. The Senkaku Diaoyu dispute transcends a simple territorial spat, representing broader geopolitical tensions in the Asia-Pacific region. The historical narrative surrounding the Senkaku Islands is complex and contested. China points to ancient texts showing the islands as part of its territory since the 15th century. They argue Japan seized the islands during the First Sino-Japanese War in 1894–95. Following World War II, the islands were administered by the United States before being returned to Japan in 1972. Japan maintains the islands were terra nullius before their incorporation into Okinawa Prefecture in 1895. Tokyo argues China only began to assert claims in the 1970s after potential oil reserves were discovered. Taiwan's claim rests on similar historical grounds as China's. The differing interpretations of history make resolving the Senkaku Diaoyu dispute incredibly difficult. The Senkaku Diaoyu dispute has escalated to a flashpoint in the East China Sea. Chinese Coast Guard vessels routinely enter waters around the islands, testing Japan's resolve. Japan has increased its Coast Guard presence and conducted military exercises, raising concerns about potential accidents. Nationalist sentiments in both China and Japan make it difficult for leaders to back down. Diplomatic efforts to defuse the situation have yielded limited results. The United States calls for restraint while reiterating its commitment to Japan's defense. The situation remains precarious, with each incident raising the risk of confrontation. For the 158th consecutive day, Chinese ships were spotted near the Japanese-controlled Senkaku Islands in the East China Sea, marking a fresh record in the territorial dispute. The prolonged presence of Chinese vessels in these waters has added fuel to the simmering tensions between Tokyo and Beijing. The islands, known as the Senkakus in Japan and the Diaoyu in China, have been a contentious issue between the two countries for years. The Senkaku Islands territorial dispute began in the early 1970s when China started asserting its claims over the islets following indications of lucrative gas reserves in the surrounding waters. Japan, however, maintains that the Senkakus are its territory, citing historical and international legal grounds to support its claim. The dispute intensified in 2012 when Japan nationalized remote islets, leading to a sharp deterioration in bilateral relations. On May 27, 2024, Japan's Coast Guard reported sighting 4 Chinese Coast Guard vessels sailing in the contiguous zone adjacent to Japan's territorial sea near the island chain. These contiguous waters extend 12 nautical miles beyond territorial waters, constituting a crucial area of contention. The 158-day streak surpasses the previous record set in 2021, when Chinese ships were observed in the vicinity for 157 consecutive days until a typhoon forced their retreat. Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshimasa Hayashi highlighted the gravity of the situation, labeling the continuous presence of Chinese boats as extremely serious. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, too, expressed his concern over the matter during a bilateral meeting with Chinese Premier Li Qiang in Seoul on May 26. Kishida reiterated Japan's stance and demanded the removal of a buoy installed by China within Japan's exclusive economic zone near the Senkaku Islands. The talks took place in Seoul on May 27th on the sidelines of a trilateral summit with South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol. The summit marked a significant diplomatic event, albeit overshadowed by the escalating tensions in the East China Sea. The record-breaking presence of Chinese vessels near the Senkaku Islands follows Beijing's protest with Tokyo in April. which was triggered by the visit of a group of Japanese lawmakers to the disputed islands. The Chinese embassy denounced the visit as provocative, further aggravating the strained relations between the two nations. China's infamous cannons threaten stability. As stated earlier, 4 China Coast Guard (CCG) ships were recently observed sailing near Japan's territorial waters. According to the Yaeyama Nippo newspaper based in Ishigaki, one of the Chinese vessels was reportedly equipped with an autocannon. All 4 ships were armed with machine guns. With the deployment of the vessels in the area, China appears to be interfering with Japanese fishing operations and, more importantly, strengthening its position on the international stage. The continuous presence of CCG vessels near the Senkakus also heightens the risk of confrontations with the Japanese Coast Guard. Lethal weapons are not generally used when such confrontations arise. However, the deployment of water cannons is a possibility. This is evidenced by incidents involving the Philippines, where CCG ships have regularly employed high-pressure water cannons against Philippine Coast Guard vessels. These water cannon attacks have sometimes been so intense that they have caused significant damage, including breaking a steel railing and deforming a canopy on a Philippine Coast Guard vessel. These confrontations typically occur when Philippine government ships attempt to transport supplies to the Sierra Madre, a rusted vessel strategically positioned on a vital shoal, which has become a focal point of tension between China and the Philippines. China's investment in enhancing its water cannon technology has added another layer of complexity to these maritime disputes. In April, Chinese scientists announced the development of the world's first smart water cannon, leveraging artificial intelligence (AI) technology. The Chinese researchers argued that traditional water cannons, despite their power, often suffer from accuracy issues, particularly in adverse sea conditions. The new smart water cannon addresses these challenges with AI and advanced sensors. The smart water cannon, equipped with a photoelectric camera and motion sensors, can automatically identify targets and adjust its power and trajectory. This advanced feature ensures precision even in adverse conditions, where conventional water cannons typically falter. Once this smart water cannon technology is deployed, it could further escalate tensions. Countries like Japan, already embroiled in territorial disputes with China, could face increased challenges in safeguarding maritime territories and maintaining the security of their fishing operations. China views the Senkaku Diaoyu dispute through a lens of historical injustice and national rejuvenation. Reasserting sovereignty over the islands is seen as righting a historical wrong. Control over the islands would bolster China's maritime claims and access to undersea resources. This aligns with China's goal of becoming a maritime power. The U.S. Japan Security Treaty is perceived as an obstacle to China's claims. From Beijing's perspective, the Senkaku Diaoyu dispute is non-negotiable. Japan views the Senkaku Diaoyu dispute as a challenge to its territorial integrity. Tokyo maintains the islands are an inherent part of its territory. They see China's actions as an attempt to change the status quo by force. The rapid modernization of China's armed forces raises concerns in Tokyo. Japan is determined to maintain its control over the islands, believing any concession would embolden Beijing. The dispute is a defining issue that will shape Japan's security policy for years to come. The Senkaku Diaoyu dispute casts a long shadow over the Asia-Pacific region. It highlights the potential for conflict between China and Japan. The risk of miscalculation and escalation remains high. Nationalist sentiments on both sides make it difficult for leaders to back down. The United States faces a delicate balancing act, committed to defending Japan while avoiding conflict with China. The dispute underscores the importance of dialogue and diplomacy in resolving disputes. Failure to address underlying tensions could have devastating consequences for the region. The world watches and waits, hoping for a peaceful resolution but bracing for the possibility of conflict. Please subscribe and support for more informative videos.